Things are getting crazy, my friends. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. We got so many things to get into. In this video, we have, of course, a committee hearing going off the rails. We'll get into that. We're going to get into actually a ton of stuff that has to do with, of course, the rainbow. We have The View losing their minds again. We'll get into that. We're going to get into actually this movie, Snow White, and how it's projected to do even worse. We're going to get into actually a ton of stuff. We have another person apparently that is complaining about having to be asked, what did you do last week as work as a federal worker? And of course, she's wearing a mask. I mean, of course she is. We'll get into that. We're going to get into also a Bill Maher clip. We're going to get into, and this clip, this one's kind of going viral as well. We'll get into that. We're going to get into a ton of stuff. Let's just get going here. First, we'll start with a little bit of a sour note. We have a former advisor to our president who was just arrested today. His name is Robert Morris. He is a minister at Gateway Church in Southlake, Texas. Apparently one of those guys you see on TV. Although it seems like he's sort of in the Calvinist camp, although I think he's sort of like a kind of a little bit loose with that, from what I understand. So that's sort of his background. He's a Baptist, and this guy just got charged 5 charges. Of course, we're seeing these type of stories. It's so disgusting, but we see these stories left and right. 5 charges, of course, with someone that's younger. And I mean, honestly, this just seems to, so I've seen so many stories like this. The guy with the, what is it? The International House of Prayer. It's like a ton of people like this. All out of nowhere. And all getting caught. Of course, this comes back to something I've been talking about on my channel, that we're now in the time. Now, of course, a lot of people call it the golden age, but we're in the time of the white dragon. And a lot of people watching may have no clue what I'm talking about, but we moved from the red dragon age to the white dragon age end of last year, which of course, this leads to things being uprooted, bad things being uprooted, particularly in the GOV, church, all sectors of society. So you're going to be seeing a lot of stuff like this. God is sort of making things, made known, and those that are in bad leadership will be removed. And here's another example. This guy apparently, Robert Morris, Oklahoma grand jury indicts Pastor Robert Morris, and this just came out today. Actually 17 minutes ago. When you watch this, it might be like a half hour later. But the fact is, he was indeed former advisor to our president. And honestly, I mean, it's just like the recent pick for the faith office, Paula White. Not exactly what I'd call a great pick either. A lot of these guys at the top, man, doesn't matter where you're coming. We're talking Catholic, Protestant, whatever, charismatic, Calvinist. You're seeing a lot of them fall. A lot of scandals. You have Paula White apparently hanging out with Joni Lamb in D.C. Joni Lamb is now in a scandal, also being sued with her network, TV network. I can't remember what it's called. Whatever it's called. I can actually look it up real quick. Let me look real quick. Why can't I remember the name? Joni Lamb. What is her company called? Daystar, that's what it's called. Paula White's hanging around her all the time. So what's really curious about this, I've talked about this over the years, how you have all these ministers falling. I think this is God's doing. We have a lot of bad leadership all across the board in our country. Doesn't matter where you're talking about, GOV, church, whatever. And God is going to be removing these people and putting good people in charge. This is kind of what I'm thinking is going to be happening as the year progresses. And we have a lot of crazy stories like this. We're going to get into one like this a little bit later. We have one on John MacArthur. This guy here, actually, I'll just talk about this really quick. This guy was street, preaching, and some dude came up to him with one of these, actually like this, but he didn't do anything. All right, let's get into some of these other things. We have here John MacArthur, and I find it really, okay, I don't know how to explain this, man. Look, it feels like, at least over the last decade here on YouTube, there's pretty much only been 2 main groups, and actually technically only one for the most part, that were dominant in the sort of the religious sphere. Oh, maybe there's 3. In the religious sphere on YouTube. You had here, of course, the Calvinists. And when I say Calvinists, I mean particularly ones like John MacArthur, who is a cessationist, who doesn't believe in any miracles, doesn't believe you should be listening to God's voice, et cetera, et cetera. And then you had I guess you did have like a little group of Catholic sort of, you had some like the Mel, Gibson types. I think it's called Vatican something. There's a channel that got pretty big. Then you have, of course, sort of the more Pentecostal, I guess you would say, but technically more so, not really Pentecostal, but more so the prosperity dudes. So you pretty much just had the prosperity dudes and the Calvinists, and those are the only 2 groups you had. For the most part, they were very dominant on the internet. And I find it really bizarre that the channels that seem to be propped up the most are one of the 2. They get lots of views, and I feel like there's a reason why that happens. What's really bizarre about all of this, though, is that I don't think either side really had anything figured out perfectly at all. I did used to like John MacArthur back in the old days, way a long time ago, maybe like 15, 20 years, probably 20 years ago, actually. I think it was about 20 years ago. I liked him before he did his whole strange fire thing. And because I didn't know anything about what he thought about things like miracles. And he seemed to say a lot of good stuff back in the old days. He seemed to, like you said, normal stuff, things you would expect people to say. But it's really bizarre how much, like I've watched a number of channels and they all seem to back this guy. And I'm like, bro, why would you back this guy? The guy said you could take, of course, the mark and then also get saved later. That doesn't make any sense. That's insane. He said stuff like that. He said there's no miracles. They regularly tell people, I talked in a previous video, that this wretched channel was complaining that there were so many revivals going on at universities. They were complaining. They were like, these revivals can't be from God because they're hearing God's voice. I am not joking you. I'm not joking at all. I'm serious. They were literally saying this. I can show you. This is crazy. This is straight crazy. So let me see if I can pull it up real quick because I showed it on my other channel. All right, here it is. It's this channel right here. This guy. All right. So where is it? I got it around here. Here it is. This one right here. We investigated the massive revivals, quote unquote, happening at universities.
I'm always reassured that mixed apps are really high.
Pause. All right. Give me a second here. Let's get it on the screen and get rid of this ad. All right. So let me show you this. Okay. So here we have 2 ladies that are part of one of these revivals at one of these universities talking. Let me just play this.
Know exactly what he meant by that, but I formed a team. I did it quickly. Fast. And I didn't really know exactly what he meant by that, but I
to her. Now, a lot of this is tied into visions and revelation that she has gotten from God.
Yeah.
God woke me up in the middle of the night and he said, form a team, do it quickly. This is going to spread fast. And I didn't really know exactly what he meant by that, but I formed a team. I did it quickly.
Specifically stating revelation and visions.
Okay, but dude, I've got a quote from her, just hot off the press.
Oh boy.
She said, you're claiming that when she would speak, she would talk about her revelation from God.
Yes.
She said, and this is a pretty accurate quote, I am not a prophet, but God told me. Well, that's what makes you a prophet.
So here he is complaining. Okay, let me just explain this. So he's saying that she is a prophet because she heard God's voice. That's what he's literally saying. She said here, I am no prophet, but what I do feel like God has shown me is this will be called the greater, awakening, and this will be something our nation has never witnessed. This is what she said. Now he's saying because she heard his voice, that makes her a prophet. I don't think that makes her a prophet, dude. So they actually have this theology that they believe you can't hear God. Literally, this is what they believe. This is what that guy believes, and he's friends with this guy, John MacArthur. They believe you literally can't hear God's voice. This is what they believe. No joke. When it literally says in Scripture, my sheep hear my voice. If you don't hear his voice, maybe you're not a sheep. You know what I mean? Like what? Like it says literally, my sheep hear my voice. Then we have this video here that's been going viral with Sam Cedar on Jubilee. He talks to this lady, and she's talking about how, well, you know how you have, like, for instance, South Korea or Japan, they tend to be Japanese people or Korean, right? Why is it only specifically when it comes to people that look like me, you're not allowed to have, of course, a nation where it's specifically people that look like me? You see what I mean? Because we're a melting pot here. Well, what about Europe? Well, they're a melting pot. No, they weren't, but now they are. They're more of a melting pot than we are, right? So she talks about this and mentions this, and apparently a lot of people are freaking out over what she said. Oh my goodness. Well, it makes sense. It's called being, I don't know, equal? Having everything equal? Like if Japanese can have their own country, if, you know, someone in Lebanon can have their own country, you know what I mean? You should be able to have your own country and decide things, right? Which apparently is not what they want you to do in our country. At any rate, this is pretty interesting. Let's just play this. Check this out.
Now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you...
Dude, this is hilarious. Okay, so I just realized this. I didn't even notice this the first time. So this guy here calls her trans, okay? Sarah called Mr. McBride. Mr. Sarah McBride, right? And then what does Sarah say back to him? Calls him Madam. So they both miss, of course, gender each other. But of course, neither one is really getting mad, as you can tell. This guy's leaving. But who gets mad? The guy right here. You'll see it as we play it.
repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House.
I'm sorry. I thought this guy moving was actually the one. It's this guy here that said Mr. McBride to this person here. And she said back, Madam, to him. Oh, my goodness. And then this guy's getting offended. Okay, let's play this.
And I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency?
Have you no decency? What is wrong with you? Of course, Sarah called him Madam, so, I mean, it's like equal. I mean, they both did it to each other, so who cares? Who cares, right? This is awesome stuff, man. You got to love this stuff, all right? Let's check it out. I think it was around here.
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House.
When you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America. Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency?
You're out of order.
I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this
You
hearing.
will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative.
It's hilarious how... why is this always the case? Why is it the person who actually was supposedly had the offense against, not offended whatsoever, and it's some other person on behalf of that other person that gets offended? It seems like that's what always seems to happen. At any rate, it's just kind of hilarious to watch. And, of course, then we have The View. They had on Dylan, Bud Light Mulvaney here. You would think that they would have learned by now, but apparently not. Check this out.
I think part of the problem the trans community is facing, and it's the same problem that women face, is if you don't know anything about our bodies, you don't know how it works. When you come in and you say, these are men competing against women, you're assuming that the women are weak and just can't do anything yourself. Have you seen female athletes? They know what they're doing.
Have you seen male athletes?
So, of course, obviously, most people realize that it's not fair when you have a man, of course, who transitions and then that person is in female sports. Almost all sports it would not be fair. I think most people would agree on that. There is, of course, a few people like Whoopi Goldberg there on The View and maybe Joy Behar. Some of them just don't get it for some strange reason. I don't understand what they don't understand. I mean, you also have Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson even, which is kind of crazy actually, considering they're scientists as they claim, right? I mean, and it makes you feel bad being an engineer because I'm an engineer and these guys claim to be engineers and they say those type of things. But the fact of the matter is, like, obviously everybody knows this. I would say most people know that it's not fair. In almost all sports, there might be a couple sports where men and women are tending to be equal. I can think of like one or two maybe out of like 50, but almost in every case it's not, right? Then you have this story. This just came out as well. You have this family of a Christian school teacher. His name is Enoch, who was imprisoned for 2 years in Ireland. Of course, because he didn't use the they, them, we're talking pronouns, for a student of his. I remember this story. You remember this story? He finally got released, and apparently he's going to our country to visit our president. So that's some interesting news. This just came out yesterday. So we have a lot of stories in this realm. And so you can see this, and there's actually another one which I would want to talk about, but I'm not going to. There was a street, minister who was approached and was, the person had one of these, okay? And it was, of course, trans. So it's kind of weird. You have all these stories all out of nowhere at the exact same time. And then you even have this one. You even have a video game, Halo, apparently, promoting Women's Day armor. Oh my goodness, seriously, dude. And a lot of other things that are just about as cringe. But this is what's happened to the gaming industry, particularly with some of these top-level gaming studios like Microsoft, where they put out just the most cringe stuff you've ever seen in your life. And by the way, I had a meeting last night with our team. We're building our own game. We've been building it for 3 years. Noah VR, it's also called Apocryphon Genesis. When we put it into the secular stores and things like that on the PlayStation, we're going to have it go with the second name, Apocryphon Genesis. So it doesn't sound like, some religious game. But Noah VR is going to be obviously for the demographic of those that are more religious. So we're going to be selling the game with 2 different names, and we're going to swap it depending on how it's selling. But the fact is, we do still have some seats available if you're interested in getting involved. Our programmer, he just showed me how he cleaned up all the movements on the game. So when you're moving around, when you're climbing, when you're doing parkour in the game, it's very smooth. It's very excellent. He had been working on that for months to get it perfect. And we actually have also a potential large company that could be investing in our game. All right. But if you want to get in on the action here, if you want to get in potentially making some serious profits when this game releases, you can put $400 in and get in the group that will receive 20% of the profits when the game releases. There are 550 people in this. There's only so many seats available left. I'm not quite sure how many's left. I think it's 4 every time I turn around. Well, we had a couple people promise to get in and they never paid. So we just had to let go of their, we kind of held it for them. What do you call it? Rain check or whatever. We held some positions for some people that said they were going to buy like 7 or 10. They never bought them. So we still have a few available. I think we have 4. I don't remember exactly, but it's not very many left. So if you want to get involved, link is in the description for that. Also, of course, food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 4 weeks worth for 118, or no, not 118, 247. 118 would be awesome, wouldn't it? 4 weeks worth for 247. You're going to definitely want to get that if you have not already. Link is in the description. That's definitely a great deal. They also have other options available. It's a very long page here. As you can see right here, there's a lot of options available. Go check it out. Link is in the description for that. Also, my website, Jared Videos, is linked below. Go check that out as well. Got tons of deep dives in a lot of different topics. Go check that out also. Let's get back to the video. So we have, of course, the USAID, some new interesting thing that developed. Apparently, employees told to shred some of the documents. We're talking classified. Oh, that's interesting. U.S. Agency for Internal Development is instructing its staff in Washington to shred, of course, documents. So shredding documents, and why are they doing this? I thought they had nothing to hide. So why are they doing that? That's a good question. I don't know, but that's going on right now. You have, of course, this new movie that's coming out soon here, Snow White from Disney, and apparently they spent $270 million on this movie. See if I can get it on the screen better. Where is that at? I think here it is. Okay. It's so woke. Apparently, its premiere is being held in a secret location at a castle in Spain. The backlash against the Snow White remake, which dumped dwarf actors and romance, apparently. So they're really expecting this thing to bomb hard. They're expecting this thing to make almost no money, dude. They spent almost $300 million on this puppy. And they're expecting the first opening weekend, they're actually expecting 60 to 70 million, and they had to revise their projections down to 50 million on the weekend. So this thing is probably not going to get anywhere near 280 million back at all. And it might be the worst bomb ever for Disney. We'll see what happens, but at any rate, of course, it's full of the rainbow and all that kind of stuff as well. You have here, of course, a lady that works for the federal government protesting against, of course, DOGE. And she's wearing a mask. What? I thought are we in 2020 or are we in 2025? I'm kind of wondering, are we in the Wayback Machine right now? No, apparently this was from yesterday, all right? Check this out.
When you wake up or when you're on your weekend and you get the fork in the road message, or you get the subsequent 5 bullets, hey, what the hell did you do, you lazy federal worker, this week?
Yeah, you don't want to have to be able to tell someone what you actually did. Oh my goodness, like I can't even fill out 5 bullet points of what I did last week. I sat around, ate some food, answered some emails. Yeah, I mean, that's some hard work right there, right? So, I don't know.
How frightening is it that someone on X, the owner of X, speaks to you directly to say, what did you do last week at work? And if you don't answer...
Oh my goodness, someone spoke directly. It wasn't indirectly. It was directly to her and said, did you actually do any work last week? When we paid you all that money to sit in your cubicle. Did you do any work? That's the question we're asking.
I am going to fire you. But even more...
Boo. Well, they do have some work to do right now. Apparently, they're shredding documents. So they do have some work. They could put that on the bullet point. We did shred some documents, although you probably didn't want us to do that. We did shred documents last week. So, yeah, that's the kind of stuff they're doing right now. And, of course, you have this lady. She's pretty interesting. I thought this was a hilarious clip. Check this out.
She's always got the sweetest voice when she starts out.
How are you? Good. I'll let my staff get settled. There's a lot of news today, so I look forward to taking your questions. Good to see you.
And then she turns into a tiger. Let's start with calling out Washington Post.
And lastly, before I take questions, I would like to commend the Washington Post, who I believe is in the room today. According to a new report...
Dude, it's so true. She starts out really nice sounding and smiling, and then she like just turns and like changes when she starts talking to some of these reporters. It's pretty hilarious, actually. I don't know if you watched some of the clips of her, but she does sound out very nice, starts very nice, and then it's like, you know, just starts getting a little bit seriouser and sharper, and it's kind of funny, actually. She's probably the perfect press secretary. And then, of course, we have this what is this? Tariffs. Oh, yeah. So this is interesting. I wanted to respond to this. This is The View again, and they are just really not understanding how an economy works. And it's really irritating to watch this stuff because these people have a big platform. They can just say whatever they want. And of course, I'm just a dude in his chair in his basement, but I actually know a lot more about the economy, apparently, than these people. I mean, it's pretty interesting what they had to say. Check this out.
So pocketbook issues drove the election, but now prices are going up. Even though Trump promised on day one everything's going to come down, but it didn't. Job numbers are down, however. Prices are up, job numbers are down. And the stock market plummeted recently. So can you break this down for us? Because where do the numbers stand and what's causing all this economic chaos?
Yeah.
Okay, so for one, look, the whole thing with the egg prices, I covered it in a previous video. It was actually because of the previous administration. They culled 100 million. Was it 100 million? I think it was 100 million. Let me go look it up again. Egg laying hens. Okay. Okay, I think it was 100. Okay, how many commercial laying hens are there in the United States? So yeah, I was right. So there's 304 million hen laying egg, whatever you call it, in the United States. All right? Hens that lay eggs, right? They culled 100 million all at once because of the flu. And that wasn't the only time they did it. So you literally have about half as many egg laying hens as usual. And that's why the prices of eggs went up. Now, when I go to the store, honestly, the prices aren't going up like they used to. At least to me, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys in the comment section can tell me I'm wrong. But the last few times I went to Kroger, I go to Kroger usually, the prices seemed pretty much like usual. It didn't seem to go up. However, I remember last year, at least 2 or 3 times where I was like, bro, the prices went up. At least 2 or 3 times last year where it went up significantly during the year while they told us it didn't. Now they're telling us it is going up when it doesn't seem like it's going up. Just the eggs, which of course is because of something that happened at the latter end of last year when they had to cull a number of hens because they were sick. So let's hear what they have to say, though.
Yeah, well, Joy, first of all, I traveled all over the country before the election, and that was the thing. Inflation, prices, get the prices lower. That was the thing on Americans' minds when they went.
Which is still on their minds, which a lot of people can't afford anything. But what's interesting is what happened after he got in. What's happened over the last 7 weeks? An insane amount of companies are now coming back to America. An insane amount of companies. And this is not an extensive list because I can list about 5 off the top of my head that are not even on this list. You have General Electric, Intel, Apple, Toyota, Corning, Lilly. I mean, there's like a million more. You got Apple, you got John Deere, you got Ford, you got Stellantis. Stellantis is opening 3 more factories. Okay, but it doesn't happen in a week. It takes more than a week to open a factory. It takes actually a year to build one at bare minimum. A matter of fact, one of my friends in high school, his father built the GM factories in Michigan. And it took him like, I think a year to build it. And it was like a year and a half later, he got paid. Okay, so it don't happen in a week. You can't build a factory in a week. But Stellantis is opening 2 old factories, which might take them a couple months to open. So you have all these jobs coming back to America, probably millions. And I'm like I said, I just named 4 or 5 off the top of my head on top of the ones they show here. There's like a million. There's like a ton of companies coming back to America right now. There's going to be tons of jobs in about a year. It takes about a year for this all to happen. It ain't going to happen in 2 weeks, 7 weeks, or whatever. What? You don't understand how the economy works. And of course, this lady, I would assume she is some sort of business reporter. I'm assuming she knows this. At any rate, so these things take a while, and I'm guessing what our president's going to do, I'm just going to tell you kind of what's probably going to happen. They're going to keep saying, look, oh, the economy's terrible. You were supposed to turn it around in literally 20 seconds, and you didn't do it. You know, it's like, okay, dude. And a lot of people are like, wait a second, you're right. Of course, because they don't understand how the economy works. There's going to be a lot of people that think silly stuff like that because they don't understand how things work. Then what's going to happen is our president's like, oh, I got an idea that'll work. Well, actually, we already talked about it. Let's send them checks in the mail for money we saved from Doge. And then you'll get this $5,000 check in the mail, and people will be happy for a few months. And then finally, we'll start seeing a little bit of progress with this turnaround by that time. That's probably what's going to happen. You're going to see some check in the mail to sort of kind of undo all the ridiculous stuff they're saying, because a lot of people just don't really understand how the economy works. You have, of course, a president also axing the approval for the hated toll in New York City, which means lowering the cost of the subway system in New York City. So he's trying to do stuff left and right. It's just kind of funny. You know, blaming eggs on him is hilarious. It has to do with a bunch of hens being removed. It's what it is. It's not his fault. It's ridiculous. It's because of a flu. But then you have this here. We have, of course, Bill Maher with Kid Rock. Check this out. They're talking about, of course, our president.
It's a trilogy. He wins the election. Then there has to be an act 2 where the hero is wandering in the wilderness before you have act 3. So it's better that he lost. Joe Biden did him a favor. He's more legendary because he came back. And
there's no question to that.
Okay, so then
but you
just
never convinced me and a lot of people that there wasn't shenanigans going on during COVID, during that election.
Exactly, dude. There were I mean, you have people still wearing masks, man. It's like, bro, some weird stuff, of course, happened back then. Everyone could see it for the most part. Almost everybody. I guess there's a few people that don't see it, but what are you talking about? Everything was fine. No, it wasn't, dude. No, it wasn't. Yeah, so of course there was some weird stuff going on back then, right? I'm going to get into more on another video, but kind of what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.